In the beginning, it was just another part of the great American dream, a vision of a proud and shining city, capital of a new nation. A man who signed himself G. Washington selected the site, and in 1790, Congress created the District of Columbia. Appropriately enough, this same G. Washington laid the cornerstone of the mammoth Capitol building, and with it the foundation of a city of destiny, Washington, D.C. Your first impression of the Capitol building is respectful astonishment. It's big. In the vast south wing, the House of Representatives makes the laws by which we live. The north wing houses the United States Senate, guardian of the people, and those precious inalienable rights which are their heritage. Who hasn't heard of Washington's Pennsylvania Avenue, mighty marching ground of history, highway of the presidents? Renowned Constitution Avenue, along whose fabulous way rise the massive and majestic edifices of federal government, like a regiment of giants on parade. Washington is a city of parks, and statues stand in silent salute to yesterday. The Treasury building, cashier for the nation, symbolizes the wealth of the nation. From its coffers have flowed the golden treasures of the new world to help revitalize the war-impoverished economies of the old. It was prophetic, perhaps, that a Frenchman, Major Charles Pierre Lafont, follower of the heroic Lafayette, planned this city built upon the creed that all men are equal. Prophetic and fitting. Lafont's master plan remains much the same. But since his day, Washington has become a place of architectural miracles, like the gigantic Pentagon building, amazing city within a city, a monster of steel and stone, containing some 6 million square feet of floor space, accommodating some 30,000 workers. Think of the State Department, and you think of the architecture of diplomacy, of international policy and protocol. Established in 1789, this highly important division of government has long played a vital role in the precarious profession of world politics. Equal justice under law, the creed of the United States Supreme Court, judicial branch of our government. Within this beautiful building, struck from the gleaming white marble of Vermont and Georgia, are formulated the legal opinions and decisions by which democracy sets its course. Since 1803, when Chief Justice John Marshall set aside a legislative act as unconstitutional, the highest court in this land of ours has ruled supreme over the law of that land. The third branch of our government, the executive, is symbolized by that familiar and cherished mansion at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the White House. Although never occupied by the man who signed himself G. Washington, it has been the home of every other president since John Adams. The White House isn't just another building. It's the nation's spiritual capital, immortalized by history, sanctified by reverence. The Potomac, river of history, river of destiny, flowing in quiet and tranquil majesty on the whispering tides of time. Some 15 miles from Washington, D.C., stands Mount Vernon, America's memorial to that great and gallant patriot leader who was first in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. Here on the banks of the placid Potomac, among the rolling hills of green Virginia, George Washington lived and died in honor everlasting. Perpetuated for posterity's grateful tribute, the mansion is hallowed now by the deeds of the man who called it home. Each year it is visited by thousands of Americans from everywhere who owe much of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to the squire of Mount Vernon. But America never forgets her heroes. Across the river from Washington lies Arlington National Cemetery, last field of honor for many who have died that the nation might live. All branches of the armed services, and not a few civilians. The tomb of the unknown soldier. Who can forget the nameless martyrs of that heroic host, everlastingly guarded by a pacing sentinel? The tomb bears the simple inscription, "Here rests in honored glory an American soldier, known but to God." The bugle calls are silent now. The battle flags are furled and stored away. But what they did, the sleeping ones of Arlington, will be long remembered. Then there was that quiet, unassuming man who signed himself A. Lincoln, who was destined to play out his role in that American dream in the blood and fire and fratricidal hate of Civil War. A. Lincoln, he preserved the Union all right and paid the tragic cost right here in Ford's Theater. Across the street from Ford's Theater is the house where Lincoln died. Another familiar memorial. A simple, kindly man, Abe Lincoln, born in a frontier cabin. How he came to be President of the United States is another part of that American dream. He just must have had something, or maybe it was destiny. There's usually a man around when the country needs him. Most people think of Washington, D.C. as a city of government and nothing else. But it's also a city of good living, a city of gracious hotels where the traditional and the modern combine to create that good old Washington hospitality. In contemporary Washington, where millions come and go, smart living is the rule. The capital is much like any progressive American metropolis, always busy and completely in step with the times. If history and those who make it have always walked the streets of Washington, if the clinging ghosts of yesterday haunt even the landmarks of today, there are also newer things to see and newer generations to see them. But that's Washington. When Major Charles Pierre L'Enfant, that dreamer of monuments and great architect of majesty, laid out the historic avenues named for the 13 original states, he had no thought for the dreamers and the planners of tomorrow. No conception of modern and exclusive residential areas such as beautiful Dupont Circle, a place of stately homes and spacious gardens, green and flowering in the sun. Why should he? The modern American living was far away, its miracles and refinements reserved for another century. Deep tradition and great culture are the pride of Washington, the knowledge of things long remembered. But the citizens of the capital have built for themselves as well as for posterity. In this queen city of the nation, favored by fortune and the fates, the American way of life is everywhere exemplified, in beauty and in spirit. Home of the President and no small number of other good American citizens, Washington is also the home of a great international diplomatic corps, among which are some governments in exile, determinedly waiting the day when freedom will return to their unhappy lands. Foreign governments recognized by that of the United States have their diplomatic representatives in the capital. Here in democracy's mightiest citadel, where liberty has so firm a foothold, American and alien alike can see democracy at work. Young republics like the gallant Philippines, born of faith and sacrifice, are especially welcome to the proud and fighting fraternity of the free. Washington is also known for Georgetown University, founded at St. Mary's, Maryland, way back in the year 1634, and later reestablished in the capital. Georgetown is the oldest Catholic university in the United States. The first of these present buildings was erected in 1788, which most certainly should give Georgetown a degree in tradition, let alone a degree in democracy. Washington, D.C. is the home city of Capital Airlines, whose great constellations travel the soaring high roads of the sky. Travel aboard one of these giant Capital liners, so much a part of the modern air age. Here in comfortable pressurized cabins is real luxury aloft. Here the reasons why so many travelers choose Capital for both business and pleasure. Courtesy, you'll find it at your beck and call, exemplified during every flying mile by Capital's alert and considerate personnel, whose main responsibility is keeping you content and comfortable. Pleasure? Try the Capital Cloud Club, where in an ultra-exclusive atmosphere of refinement and conviviality, you can join the friendly group in cards or conversation. And even better, like many another Capital service, the attractive Cloud Club is yours to enjoy at regular standard fares. All the comforts of home, and some you won't even find there, are a matter of course when you go by Capital. It's air travel at its thrilling best. Food? You've never dined in the clouds until you've dined on one of Capital's tasty meals or snacks. Your hostess prepares your tray, and in no time the appetizing cuisine is there before you. Just picture yourself flying high above the weather, at some 300 miles per hour, relaxing in the knowledge that the performance and the safety of your Capital airliner have been proved by billions of passenger miles. For more than a quarter century, flying schedules that cover some 73 American cities, Capital has achieved a reputation for efficiency, for service second to none, and all at surprising economy to you and your pocketbook. Thousands of thundering horsepower driving your mighty Capital liner toward your own particular destination. This time to that proud and beautiful city, Washington, D.C. And now you're coming in, looking down upon the inspiring memorials and the mighty monuments, enduring symbols of America's heart and America's hope. Yesterday, you would have come by land over the crawling miles of a vast continent. Today, you come by air, aboard a luxurious Capital constellation in a matter of hours instead of days or weeks. And Capital Airlines is your magic carpet. Long ago, the story tells us, all roads led to Rome. But in this, the 20th century, all highways and skyways lead to Washington, D.C. At the Capital's National Airport, the great winged liners of the clouds bring countless thousands to this city of magnificent splendors. It is the beginning of a fascinating adventure, one you will never forget. You've heard of the shrines of Washington. Now you're about to see them. No American can look upon the proud pageantry of his country's past without both awe and reverence. From Arlington Memorial Bridge, you approach the monumental masterpiece that stands in memory of perhaps the noblest leader of them all, Abraham Lincoln. In beautiful and inspiring tribute to the great emancipator who preserved that union which George Washington and others fought to build, the Lincoln Memorial makes its unforgettable impact on the heart. Here indeed in the enchanted poetry of living marble has been captured the greatness and the simple grandeur of Abraham Lincoln. Here where eternity stands guard, you can almost hear the immortal words.
77 years ago, our forefathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation.
And the voice of that nation, listen.
In this temple, as in the hearts of the people for whom he saved the Union, the memory of Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever.
A. Lincoln, village postmaster, country lawyer. And then A. Lincoln, President of the United States. Truly, now does he belong to the ages. No, America never forgets her heroes. On the banks of the Capital's tidal basin stands another magnificent memorial to a great patriot of democracy, Thomas Jefferson. This masterpiece in marble was dedicated April 13th, 1943. 200th anniversary of Jefferson's birth. It symbolizes America's gratitude to the famed author of the Declaration of Independence, who also became her first Secretary of State and her third president. Tom Jefferson. He swore eternal hostility to every form of tyranny over the mind of man. He had some ideas about the young America, too, and wrote them down in words of singing fire.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
That all men are created equal, words that will hold their truth forevermore.
And for the support of this declaration, with firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. What more could men give for love of liberty? Men like George Washington, whose farewell address warned, "The jealousy of a free people ought to be constantly awake." Each year, the Washington Monument inspires 1 million or more visitors from every part of the nation and many parts of the world, come to pay tribute to one of the noblest patriots of them all. A soaring symphony in white marble, the monument flings its mighty spire into the bright sky above, rising to a towering 555 feet above the Capitol's tree-lined mall. A miracle of masonry, and the Capitol's most familiar landmark. Such is the story of that Capitol, that proud and beautiful city inspired by the man who signed himself G. Washington. As for Tom Jefferson, he also did right well by his country. The country didn't forget it. And A. Lincoln, you'll find a mention or so of him in the history books, too. It just goes to show what happened to this particular American dream. A dream that came true in that shining city of destiny, Washington, D.C.